Okay, under the liquidity risk, the Basel also defines the four matrices um, in the factor default, this one, which is like the factor default is uh, not of not of the not of the matrices like the probability default, the exposure default, the loss given default, and the maturity. So uh, it should be that the it should be that uh, the default is calculated by or charge to capital for the liquidity risk factor is calculated as charge times the risk weighted times the 8%, 8%. So basically the credit distribution uh, from the equity or the exposure is calculated as this calculated in terms of the skewness of the credit distributions. That is how far is the credit default uh, from the exposure default. Basically, charge to capital is formulated as loss given default times n. Here n is the count of defaults, the natural logarithmic, uh, brackets, open bracket, PD, that is probability of default, times the uh, n count, n minus n to the power minus 1 times square root of 1 by 1 minus rho plus n minus 1 n to the power minus 1 times uh, 99.9 percent uh, times times the row by 1 minus bracket closes, minus loss given default plus loss given default times the PD. So it calculates in this section of the formula. It calculates the loss given times default times the PD as at both 99.9% confidence level as well as below that confidence level, minus minus the 1 plus b times uh, m minus 2.5 by 1 plus b times 1.5. So this is how the charge to equity a charge to capital is formulated. This is uh, not the usual charge to capital formula, where the uh, bank regulators provide the alpha, that is the reserve ratio for the risk weighted assets, and hence the capital should be calculated. Here the bank, they themselves have to identify the risk weighted assets. They have to identify the charge to capital based on these factors like loss given default, the probability of default, the exposure default, and the maturity. Instead of straight away looking up the charge provided by the regulators for the identified risk weighted assets. So this is um, standard process versus the standard process versus the formulated difference. So this is one this is one of the deliverable of the um, basal processes. And in the balance sheet, in the previous video, it's mentioned like how it should be identified, which are the risk weighted assets, which are the uh, uh, equity or common equity tier 1 component, like equity component, uh, and the retained earning components. And as well, it should be identified whether the uh, it should be identified whether the collateral that is placed against the lending activities, or that exposure, is properly calculated, it's based on the various ratings. For example, uh, there are 8 kinds of activities category standardized by Basel, like corporate, retail, headquarters. So among those categories, what was the collateral credit factors? For example, in corporate, if the ratings was triple A, then the risk weight becomes 0, and hence the capital reserve requirement is also becomes nil. For example, suppose a bank has lended out a corporate loan for say again $100,000, and it had given against a collateral which has a rating of double B. So the for a double B, the table defines that the risk weight is 100%. So 100,000 will be totally qualified as 100% of 100,000 will be qualified as the risk weightage, and 8% of 100,000 is around 80,000. Yeah. 8,000, not 80,000. 8,000 would be calculated as a capital reserve. And then of if the bank lended out a corporate loan for a million, and in that million the collateral credit risk was or the credit risk of the overall loan was loan was B. Then Basel requires 150% to be identified as risk-weighted assets. So of 1 million, 1.5 million uh, would become the risk-weighted assets, and of this 8%, that is 1.5, that is 120k, 128 120,000 would be defined as the risk weighted assets. That is 128,000 totally the risk weighted assets would be qualified for both the categories of loan, that is triple B and B. And for the loans amount of 100k and 1 million respectively. So the Basel 2 defines the activities at the type of loan, and based on the collateral, and as well the charge basically, which defines the uh, uh, credit credit risk distribution over over its maturity and the interest rates. And charge is something, the difference between the credit risk and the equity or the exposure of default. Usually the exposure of default is like exposure of default for a healthy healthy corporation is has has positive skewness, and the distance between the credit default and the exposure default is less, and the skewness is positive. And again the charge to capital is calculated as LGD times n, bracket starts PD times n minus 1 times square root of 1 by 1 minus rho plus plus PD times 99.9% times square root of rho by 1 minus rho, bracket close, uh, minus LGD times PD, um, plus 1 plus uh, B times maturity minus 2.5 by 1 plus B times 1.5. So this is as per the Basel 2 accord, and the credit risks that has to be credit risk that has to be identified. So yes.